Hey VGA crew, Mike and Mara here with the question of the week. Question of the week, of course, was how did your parents feel about you playing video games? For me, I'm of the same generation as Chris and Tisa there. I was born in 81, so I'm going to be 40 this year. My parents were very atypical, though, whereas there were a lot of parents of the ride during the rise of Nintendo and stuff like that, where they saw video games as being this wasted time sink and this horrible thing to be avoided, much like their parents did with TV when they were kids. My parents were very much on board with it. I was born into a household that had a Commodore 64 already, as well as an Atari 2600. It was one of those things where it was just always around me because my dad was always way into the tech. He was a computer science major, and so he was constantly playing around with and tinkering with the Commodore 64. So I was learning how to not only play games, but also kind of how to code on that thing, which you kind of had to do anyway, even to just play games. And my mom too. She was way into playing video games too. I have very distinct memories of her sitting on the floor of my bedroom with the Atari 2600 stick. One like black stick with the orange button, playing Missile Command. That was her huge game. She loved playing Missile Command, and we would always kind of give her nonsense for that for years about how much she would play that and how many hours she would just while away with our babysitters. Like the babysitters would sit down, and they would like do high score shootouts. It was really interesting. Even as I was getting older, when the Nintendo came around, I remember waking up to them sitting in chairs in my room in front of my bed, taking turns playing things like Tetris and Mario. They liked playing video games. They were with the times, and they saw it as just another medium similar to like TV or movies or things like that. And listen, they didn't want me just spending all my time sitting in front of it. I still did things like play sports. I went out and was active with like the neighborhood friends and stuff like that. But it was never seen as something to be shunned from. In fact, I have a lot of great bonding memories with my dad. He would take me to a local arcade quite frequently, and I remember one of the first times he took me, I'm sitting there playing Double Dragon, and he was getting into it too. He liked the beat 'em ups with me. But then I saw a side of him that I hadn't seen before that point. I saw like hardcore gamer dad come out. This must have been like 1990 or so. There was a remastered or remade version of Asteroids. I remember the cabinet distinctly. It had like these really like sharp graphics on it. And he saw this thing. He walked over and flipped the machine. Like he completely destroyed the high scores on it because 20 years earlier when he was in college, he had played Asteroids to death in the Student Union building. And then that kind of connection would continue on. We would have certain games that the whole family would play. I remember in the mid 90s, I was in junior high school, right around the time Doom was coming out. There was also a game called Under a Killing Moon, which I've talked about on this show before, where not only myself, but my sisters, my mom, my dad, we all played our own saves of that, and we would kind of compare notes. And kind of the epitome of this sort of thing was Doom itself. Whereas everyone else, the parents were talking about how violent it was, how dangerous it was, you shouldn't do this. Me and my dad were playing the shareware version of Doom, knee deep in the dead, just going from the first mission to the last, trying to beat each other's high scores and times. I remember him leaving little post-it notes on the monitor so that when I got home from school, and this was right around junior high school, I would get home from school, he'd still be at work, there would be the high score for a level or a time to beat for a level that he had done the night before while I was sleeping, and then I would have to beat it post the new time, and then he would jump onto it too. It was just one of those things that we always shared. It was something that my entire family was active with, and so I have very fond memories and continue that to this day. Like I play games with my sons. They have their own interests as far as video games, but whenever possible, we make it a family thing, as it should be. Like with any other media, if you love something like that, share it with the people you care about and be open to these experiences. I was very lucky in that respect, and I never forget that. I want to thank you guys for being with me this week, and I look forward to being with you again next week.